And now, broadcasting live from Las Vegas, the Snake Sports Talk Show with Jake Silva starts now.
All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys are having a terrific Tuesday here on the Snake Sports Talk Show, wherever and however you may be watching and listening. Thanks for making us a part of your lovely evening. We're live on all platforms known to man, Roku, iHeartRadio, and all social media platforms to like, subscribe, and follow and hit the bell button to keep you up to date on future and past episodes. Things are cooking up, and we have it all here for you tonight because we got a lot to talk about. Brandon Ayuk, all sorts of stuff, Michigan allegations, all this. I am ready for all of it here on the Snake Sports Talk Show, and boy, it's going to be something else. I can't even begin to lie at all. Like this is the time of year when the NFL season, when it's around the corner, and we got preseason games this weekend. We know we had the Hall of Fame game up last Thursday, but this is where preseason games is going to be fun to watch. So I'm here for it all. We're here for all of your NFL news and needs as well. So let's get into it. All right. So here's where I'm going to put in my 2 cents with the whole Brandon Ayuk situation. Because as of right now, it's starting to look a little bit like a comedy skit. And listen, I love Brandon Ayuk. I really, really do. But we know the situation and we know the task that is at hand. Ayuk wants a new contract and he wants a new contract. He wants to be paid respectfully, and I get that with where things are going. But the 49ers are smart enough that they know what's reasonable to pay for a receiver, at least with this roster, and understanding that they're going to have to eventually pay Brock Purdy. We don't know what's going to be going on here in like the span of the next couple of years. But we know what the task is, and we know what's going to be at stake. So this was just interesting because last week on Friday, one of the trusty news sources, so similarly to Mike Garafolo, Jordan Schultz, and Tom Pelissero, multiple people, okay? We had trusty sources that were saying that Friday there was going to be a deal done that was going to be in place that Brandon Ayuk will stay a 49er. And we were waiting for the details all day. I was sticking up on my phone all day trying to figure out what is going on with Brandon Ayuk. So apparently then, at that point, I waited all weekend and there was nothing. And so all of a sudden, now they're saying there is no deal in place. They have not come to terms with the contract. So we're back at square one again, where they were up and in a stalemate. And now, the next couple days, okay, throughout the weekend, they were saying, oh, there's potential suitors. The Steelers and the Commanders are potential suitors to land Brandon Ayuk. They said, no, we're backing out. We're not going to deal with it. And we're not going to give up so much of our future and our draft capital to acquire somebody like Brandon Ayuk. Not to mention their roster situation. It just was not happening. And then now, just this morning, news sources have said, now there are 2 teams that have risen up to the occasion, the Browns and the Patriots. Well, isn't that interesting? I am waiting for a deal to be done with Brandon Ayuk. I really do. I love the kid. And we know that with wide receivers, they tend to get a little bit emotional. And that happens. Everybody wants to be paid respectfully. I mean, you look at Tyreek Hill. He was the number 1 player in the NFL top 100, which honestly I think was a complete disrespect to Patrick Mahomes. But here's the deal about this, is that since Tyreek Hill left, Tyreek Hill hasn't won a Super Bowl again, let alone has won a playoff game with Tua. They've been an explosive offense. They've been winning regular season games, and that is all they could do. You faced off against Kansas City on the road in negative degree weather, and you shrank. It was crazy. I understand one thing when it came to Tyreek Hill. Yes, he's hyper athletic. He's speedy. The guy is unbelievable at wide receiver. But then Patrick Mahomes is fourth on the list with Lamar Jackson at 2 and Tyreek at 1. Listen, I don't think Christian McCaffrey is in the wrong spot. I think he's fine right where he's at. But the fact that you look at Patrick Mahomes and what he's done since Tyreek Hill left, he's won 2 more Super Bowls. That's the part where I think there's a bit of that disconnect. So, but besides all of that, to Brandon Ayuk's situation, he wants a contract deal that is respectful to him because he feels as though he's a number 1 target. Anywhere else he plays at that does not have a whole lot of offensive firepower with their weapons, he could be a number 1 anywhere. He could be a number 1 in New England. He could be a number 1, anywhere else that does not have a true number 1 receiver. He could be a number 1 in Buffalo. He could be a number 1 with the Chargers. He could be a number 1 in a couple of other spots. But anywhere else, respectfully, he would not be a number 1. He's not a number 1 to San Francisco. Okay? Yes, he was a first-round draft pick. But in the scenario and situation, because of how loaded this roster is from top to bottom, Brandon Ayuk was not listed as a number 1 dependable wide receiver. Okay, they have wide receivers everywhere that are expendable. Debo, Juwan Jennings. They then drafted 2 more receivers, Ricky Pearsall. So the Niners are basically telling you, they're telling you that they are not fully dependent on Brandon Ayuk to save their franchise. That's not the case. The Niners are smart. Okay, John Lynch, we know, works out deals all the time. Okay, he'll make this stuff work. But what we saw with Juwan Jennings, just in the playoffs, he came in the clutch when the Niners needed it with a score, a first down, moving the chains up more. He was great. Debo Samuel. The whole basis of Kyle Shanahan's offense is that they're very physical, they're old school football, and that they are very much more dependent on rushing the ball down your throats, getting physical against that defense, and that's how they win games. It works, but they're not dependent on the flashy wide receiver stuff, even though you can't go wrong with enough weapons. You can't go wrong with any weapon at all. But they're not fully dependent on Brandon Ayuk. That's the point of it. Okay? If anything, because Trent Williams also voiced out and said he wants a contract extension, and you know what? I'll be frank with you. I would rather in this situation, if I'm John Lynch and the 49ers, I'd be extending my left tackle because by the time Brock Purdy does not have his left tackle, he's exposed. And in every situation with their star quarterback, you need to have a left tackle to protect that blind side because that's where a ton of those injuries and at the same time, that's where a ton of your game momentum start to shrink and you get marginalized. So I would rather extend Trent Williams first before I end up extending Brandon Ayuk, even though I love the kid. Now, the other thing is, too, when Brock Purdy was the starting quarterback in San Francisco, right after Jimmy Garoppolo, because between 2 quarterbacks, Brandon Ayuk was not productive with Jimmy Garoppolo. But when Purdy came in, he was much more productive. Got 7 touchdown catches and then 8 this past year. And yes, stepped into a couple roles. But he's not solely the entire 49ers offense. They got plenty of other guys to feed. Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Debo, Juwan Jennings. They're not solely dependent on Brandon Ayuk. That's why they drafted Ricky Pearsall and one other receiver. Because if this works with Brock Purdy, with any receiver, and he can make them all very productive, then the question that is lingering in the back of John Lynch's head is, why should we even extend Brandon Ayuk then? Why should we have to deal with that hell? if you actually look at next year's free agents, look at this entire free agent list. Okay. That list of free agents, that is very, very long. They would be in absolute hell if they do not have these guys retained. Like, there's a lot of them. Okay? So 6 of these guys that are not Brandon Ayuk, set to hit the free agency. Charvarius Ward, Aaron Banks, O-lineman, Talanoa Hufanga, Dre Greenlaw, Elijah Mitchell. I would argue they probably would let Mitchell walk because you could always end up, drafting a running back. Running backs are very, very freely. But that's a lot. That's a lot of guys. That's a lot of mouths to feed here. So the 49ers are very smart of their situation, and they understand their cap situation. So that's why, like with this whole Brandon Ayuk situation, he wants around the ballpark of $30 million. In a realistic world, that ain't happening. That's not happening. I love the kid, but let's be honest. This is not happening in any other direction and situation that he goes to. Now, 2 of those organizations that were pointed out, the Browns and the Patriots, you can make an argument they could probably pay him a fortune because who do they really have as their wide receivers that is dynamic than Brandon Ayuk? Kendrick Bourne, Juju Smith-Schuster, Jalen Polk, the rookie they got from Washington. I sincerely doubt that. That's maybe the only situation he could be a number 1. He could be a number 1 potentially with the Chargers, but let's be honest. I'm hearing a lot of buzzes with Ladd McConkey being the number 1 receiver. So Ayuk would only maybe have to be number 1 for about a quarter, if not a third, of the season. And then Ladd McConkey, the more and more he continues to show during the season, then Ayuk will feel like a number 2 again. So it might not work. Buffalo, he could be a number 1, but what's in store with Khalil Shakir and Keon Coleman? So there's a lot of what ifs, but I think this whole situation's become nothing but a circus show. Like, it's a Saturday Night Live skid. That's really what this whole thing is, because I thought we were going to get a deal done Friday, and that didn't end up happening. And these were trustworthy resources. So this is not a fake thing. Trustworthy resources, even they got fooled. So we will not know until we actually hear from Brandon Ayuk himself what's going on, what's happening from here. So I think there's going to be a deal in place, but I'm not sure. And I think that the 49ers, it's very, very clear that they're willing to move off him. They are not that solely dependent on Brandon Ayuk at all to lift their offense. They have other resources. They have other options because this roster is loaded. And at the same time, there's a lot of mouths to feed next year. When you look at that free agent list for the Niners, they're losing a bunch of players. So your only chances of winning has to be this year, or if you're smart enough, potentially next year if you can work these deals. But if you get signed into the Brandon Ayuk, if you get signed up with the Brandon Ayuk situation, you're going to be in deep hell. And that's what's going to be hard. And I think that's what John Lynch understands. That's what he realizes. So I don't blame him for not even putting a deal on the table for Brandon Ayuk. He'll get a deal somewhere. It just may not be with San Francisco. And that's exactly what the Niners are telling you. All right, good stuff. We got a lot really to talk about here later on. I got to talk about this Patriot quarterback situation because honestly, there's been a lot of these rumor buzzes right now. It's been fascinating thus far. And it's more and more content every single day here up on the show. And then not to mention Michigan stuff, because this is just comical because of all these allegations. So I'm going to give my 2 cents on the Michigan allegations and more coming up here next up on the show. All right, well, the NFL season is officially here, and it is back. And you know what that means? That means Jake's Prime Predictions is also going to be making a huge comeback. I am excited for what the NFL season is going to be, from bet lines, prop bets, and much more analytical, strategic situations that we find ourselves in when we come to sports betting season. That's right. BetUS, our partners here on the Snake Sports Talk Show, has you covered with all of the best lines, single parlay leg bets, prop bets, and more, with all of the best minds to keep you up to date on any line changes, whatever my hometown of Vegas is feeling when it comes to every game situation, preseason stuff to look out for, interesting stuff altogether, and you cannot miss out on this opportunity. BetUS, when you put $50 or more into your deposit, you'll get up to 125% bonuses with up to $1,200. Okay, when you enter into a bunch of BetUS's contests. So don't miss out on the contest situation that we've got going on here in the NFL season. Major League Baseball action still going on. Casino play as well. For those of you who love slots, who love the tables, we've got casino play for you as well here on BetUS. Gambling problem? Call the number in your respective state and seek therapy and help so that you do not gamble like crazy. When you go on to BetUS.com, make sure you gamble responsibly and get on the edge of your game this NFL season. BetUS, this is where the NFL season ends.
Want to find your seat for the event of your choice but can't get one that fits your desire or your budget? Well, my friends, SeatGeek has you covered. SeatGeek is the official sponsor of the Snake Sports Talk Show. With a list of over hundreds of events to choose from, SeatGeek will assure you that you won't miss your seat with the amazing view of your choice at the most affordable price. Whether it's looking for your best seat in the house of your favorite sports team, finding live concerts that get you closer to your favorite artist, or enjoying your spot at your favorite live shows, comedies, and more, SeatGeek has it all just for you. Go online to SeatGeek.com or download the app on your mobile device through Google Play and the App Store. And as a special offer before checkout, use promo code SNAKESPORTS and save yourself $20 off of your purchase of your first ticket, and experience why SeatGeek is the most trusted ticketing app for your next event. Remember, that's SeatGeek.com, and download the app on your phone with promo code SNAKESPORTS for $20 off and find your seat with SeatGeek.
Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for our 28th year of NFL action. With the industry's biggest sign-up bonus of up to 200%, BetUS offers our members the opportunity to cash in on all your favorite sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, and more. Sign up at BetUS.com today to get into the action.
Check out the Con Man live on the Sports Corner, coming to a screen near you, giving you the greatest stories from basketball legends you've never seen before. Sharing their glory, building the toughness, and how they show off their swag. But only one man knows all that, and that's the Con Man. Join Michael Conceição, the Con Man, at the Sports Corner, Fridays at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 Pacific on Sportsway Network.
Okay, so, I love college football. I really, really do. And by the way, shout out to our partners at BetUS.com for gifting me free copy of College Football 25. I'm excited to play it. To be honest with you, I got to end up upgrading my my console. I'm an Xbox guy, but I also do have PS4. I got to upgrade that as well. So I like having best of both worlds. But besides that fact, I love college football. I cannot wait for college football season. It's right around the corner. Many, many stories from here. But here's the thing that I kind of am fed up with the NCAA, because Michigan last year was on a mission and they won the title. Okay. So many allegations were coming out. Now, of course, the whole allegation part, just kind of long story short, it was allegations of sign stealing. But here's the thing though, what is this, baseball? In baseball, people sign steal all the time. Okay, it's not anything new. And by the way, signs usually look a little similar to each other. Don't we agree? Now, because again, it may have a little bit of a different meaning than others, but almost every single sign looks similar. They just will have a different meaning. So, Jim Harbaugh of the LA Chargers, head coach, he was basically approached with the conversation of the allegations that were going on, because one of their staff members, who's no longer a part of the program at all because he ended up getting the boot, he's gone, and you know what? Good riddance. Okay? The whole topic of it is that this staff member disguised himself as somebody who ended up being on the sidelines or on the sides of the opposing team, right? So, which is pretty impressive. And then at the same time, he was given passes, he was giving accesses and all the rest of it. But you know who I end up turning and blaming is the heads of security. Because if you're seeing these passes, how could it be that easy to really get in there? Seriously. How could it be that easy to get close enough access to an opposing program's team? Really? Especially like if the guy that's like got a fake mustache and then, he's got this kind of disguise. Like, how could it be that easy for him to navigate through security like that? So when Jim Harbaugh was approached he basically said it in fairness and said it in these particular words, is that I never cheated. That is how my family has raised me. Don't cheat. Play it fairly. And he had no association with what was going on there up in Michigan. The only reason that he took the brunt of the blame is that you're the captain. You're the head coach. So when all eyes are on Harbaugh, of course he's going to basically take the bullet for the team. Okay, he's not going to try to, throw somebody up out there and, play the finger game, because sometimes that does come back to get you. It happens all the time. It's called karma. All right? Karma strikes when you least expect it and wherever you don't even expect it at all. And so for Harbaugh, he did it the right way. He took the brunt of the blame. And at that point, he served up the suspension. He didn't retaliate. He didn't end up doing this or that. And so Sharon Moore came in and he did his job. Michigan just so happened to have been on a mission because all those kids, all the players, they bought into Jim Harbaugh. They love him as a coach. They're willing to go to war with him. And they played for him and also for each other. Because remember when Zach Sinter went down with that injury, Blake Corum made one of the, I think it was one of the best sweet moments that Michigan had when he scored that touchdown. And he ended up throwing up his number. And so all the players were invested. So Jim Harbaugh moves on from Michigan and goes to the Chargers because of why? Because, well, the Big Ten And the NCAA would not support Jim Harbaugh at all. No support. And at that point, Harbaugh is kind of like, well, if I'm just going to be suspended and all the rest of it, why would I come back? I'd rather go and get an NFL gig. And I'm going to go win Super Bowls than win natties, even though he loves his alma mater, and he won a national title with his alma mater. He has accomplished so much wherever he's been. San Diego, Stanford, Michigan, the Niners. Okay, he got the 49ers with Colin Kaepernick and Alex Smith to a Super Bowl and faced off against his brother John Harbaugh. The Harbaughs are a football family, okay? And they taught their kids the right ways and the best ways of what it means to be a coach, what it means to be a player, what it means to be a professional. So the more they try to come at Jim Harbaugh, Harbaugh is basically looking at this situation going, I ain't in Michigan no more. What do you got on me? I got nothing. And he had no association whatsoever with a previous staffer that was on the Michigan side. And by the way, Harbaugh comes into the Chargers with Jesse Minter and the DB's coach at Michigan, because these are his right-hand men, trusted them at his alma mater, and look at what's happening at camp right now. They are playing shut-down defense. He loves Jesse Minter's product and defense. Okay, the way he sets up every play scheme and the way that he sets everybody up for specific situations. It's a run stuffing, and it's also a man-to-man, in-your-face kind of defense with their secondary, corners, and safeties. That's what it is. And by the way, I think their linebacking core got a lot better. Edge rushing is stacked. They added Bud Dupree. So he trusts his right-hand man to make the Chargers defense better than what it was under Brandon Staley. Okay? So this whole thing with, the allegations at Michigan, Harbaugh's like, I ain't caring about that. Okay? I got work to do. This is my new job. I'm a Chargers head coach. I've got players. I got to rally up my troops. I got to come into camp. I got to lead by example, and this is what I'm going to do. Okay? All that stuff. Okay, I tried with his words, not mine. I tried with the NCAA. I tried with the Big Ten. But I had no support. Okay, no help. No help from either of them. And so why would Harbaugh go back just so that he could get suspended from the very first week of college football? Why on earth would he do that? He's too rich. He's too good as a coach to just be suspended and not coach a team. So I just feel like the more that they're on this subject and trying to find more and more dirt on Jim Harbaugh, good luck. Harbaugh is not going to give you anything, and Harbaugh's got nothing. He didn't touch his hand on the pies. Okay? So enough. The previous staffer is gone. What more are you trying to find with Jim Harbaugh? Harbaugh's got a new gig. He's got a new quarterback. And he's also got new toys to play with. So, like I said, what's funny about this is that Michigan, because of the whole thing, Michigan was on a mission. It was Michigan versus everybody, including the governing bodies of the NCAA. So, what this feels like with Jim Harbaugh being a part of the Chargers, because everybody is doubting, they're underestimating this coaching staff, this culture, and what the Chargers are going to bring to the table in 2024. It is a new year. Nobody should be fixated upon the past because everybody's like, well, Chargers are going to Charger. Not on Jim Harbaugh's watch. So in Jim Harbaugh's mind and in his eyes, I am going to change the way people think about the Chargers. Okay? He's always got a saying. Who's got it better? Nobody. Who's going to doubt us? Nobody. Okay? So that's his product. And at the same time, it's Jim Harbaugh versus the world. For those of you who may have watched Scott Pilgrim versus the World, that's what Jim Harbaugh is. Jim Harbaugh feels a lot like Scott Pilgrim versus the World. That's what this is. Okay? And the chick is just so happens to be the Lombardi Trophy. Okay, that's what it is. He's trying to earn that Lombardi Trophy. Okay? Because in order to be champions, you got to earn it. You got to go through the grind. You got to go through trench warfares. You got to put your body through hell in order for you to be Super Bowl champions. So that's what it is. He's trying to earn that love for the Lombardi Trophy. And you know what? This is why I think in my speculation with the Chargers, I think Jim Harbaugh, because of this whole thing, just like at Michigan, when people started, trying to find more dirt, find more allegations, find something to just get the best of Jim Harbaugh. You know what Jim Harbaugh's doing? He's using that as juice. He's using that as a fuel to fire. Watch the Chargers maybe potentially win more than 10 games. I'm not over-exaggerating this. I'm just saying that when I watch Jim Harbaugh and the fire he's got in his belly, you're pissing off the beast here. So this whole thing with Michigan, they're done. They moved on. Jim Harbaugh's got a new gig. He brings in Jesse Minter and his defensive backs coach, and this is a different look. And now the Chargers, these players, by the way, these players are bought in. I have not heard of a single lick of players disagreeing, getting into fights with themselves. Nothing. I haven't heard any of that. So, which is remarkable because this is what a culture changer does. Changes the narrative, changes the culture. Sometimes you kind of have to shake the ground a bit to kind of get everybody's attention. And that's what Jim Harbaugh is doing. So, whatever dirt you think that you have on Jim Harbaugh from the NCAA, quit it. It ain't working. You did not show any lick of support for him at all. And that's the truth. That's the truth we got today. So, again, I think there's like I said, I just have a really, really strong feeling that because of how big of a culture setter Jim Harbaugh is, I think he sets the tone, and he sets the tone very, very high. That is the bar. Okay? The bar is the Lombardi Trophy. He sets it this high because he got close to it once in San Francisco, but then the Niners had different plans. So this is now a time, and this is a situation where he may end up getting a second chance. So, and again, wherever Harbaugh has landed, they've become successful. Do not underestimate the product, is all I'm saying. Time now for the news.
This is the Hot Press.
All right. Well, I'm on fire here today. So, news reports. So, we had joint practices between the LA Rams and the LA Chargers. And so 2 injuries ended up happening for the Chargers, or for both. So the Rams, Puka Nacua ended up leaving, and he's put week to week with a knee injury that he suffered in practice. But Sean McVay ended up acknowledging it, saying that he does not anticipate the wide receiver being affected in terms of even that prep. So they do expect him to be there to play in week 1 against the Detroit Lions. That's a team season opener. Now the Chargers end up losing Joey Bosa here for a bit, had a wrist injury, but hopefully we do get some good news with as far as their star pass rusher. But as far as for Puka Nacua, they basically said from Sean McVay, because he knew that he ended up feeling it when he was running a route later in practice, and said really just had a bit of a burst of sack, kind of burst it, and it's just going to be week to week with him. Nothing serious, nothing structurally. He'll be in good shape, and he'll recover and will be ready to go. No threat of anything for Detroit. So Puka Nacua, who's coming off of an amazing rookie season last year, ends up getting a knee injury in practice. So Sean McVay is confident with all of his star receivers and his star players and expects Puka Nacua to be there at week 1. So it'll be interesting how things really, really do pan out. Let's see here. We know that there were a bunch of scuffles from here. But the Seattle Seahawks did end up making a signing that I think is very, very interesting. So here we go. So this was written by Brady Henderson. So the Seattle Seahawks announced that they are signing veteran offensive lineman Connor Williams to a 1-year deal. The deal, which was negotiated and confirmed by agents Drew Rosenhaus and Ryan Matha, and it's up $6 million and includes a $3 million guarantee. So Williams, who is expected to play center for the Seahawks, is a significant upgrade of this offensive line. I like the signing. So the 7-year vet, he's coming off of a season-ending knee injury from last December, but passed a physical during a visit to the Seahawks' headquarters at the start of training camp. So the 27-year-old who visited the Baltimore Ravens on Monday, and Drew Rosenhaus told 560 WQAM Sports Radio in Miami earlier Monday that he could join a new team this week. And so this week, he ended up joining the Seattle Seahawks. So he had torn his ACL back in December while he was a member of the Miami Dolphins, and now is healthy, and he ended up signing the contract now. Rosenhaus went on to say, he is healthy. He absolutely is. He's in negotiations with the Seahawks, which now that they've gotten the signing done. What Williams ended up mentioning from here is that when he tore his ACL, the guy fought so hard, we weren't even sure if he was going to play this year. And now he's going to be ready to play in the first game of the season. It's probably, in my career, without a doubt, one of the greatest comebacks I've ever seen. So the former second-round pick by the Cowboys, I think this is a very, very good upgrade for the Seattle Seahawks, and one that they needed because offensive line help was a little bit suspect, and they did lose a couple of pieces on that line. So having Connor Williams now a part of the Seattle Seahawks today, as that news broke out, it's a very, very good signing, and it really helps them out. So interesting from here. So with the 49ers talk and all the rest of it going on about Brandon Ayuk's situation, so there has been latest reports, not on Brandon Ayuk, but on Christian McCaffrey. So given his status as a veteran and one of the team's best players, 49ers running back Christian McCaffrey was always unlikely to play much, if at all, in the preseason. If there was a chance for that, however, it no longer exists. McCaffrey did not participate in practice today after missing the team portion of drills Sunday because of a strained calf. And so Kyle Shanahan said McCaffrey is likely to miss a couple of weeks of practice and is all but certain to miss the team's 3 preseason games. He did it a couple days ago. It's all right. He didn't pull it or anything, but you guys probably won't see him this preseason. And you know what? That's fine. But as long as he's getting the practice reps and he's getting what he needs to stay healthy, to stay on the sides of things that at least keep the 49ers in good spirits here, that's all that matters. So I think to me personally, like when it comes to a star player and like Christian McCaffrey, who is the soul of that 49ers offense, why would you want to risk that in preseason? It makes no sense. So Shanahan knows the progress that he has. So luckily, it's a strained calf. They're resting it. They're doing every single procedure possible right now to keep him in the best of his athletic abilities right now, just so that way he's able to start up the season and keep up with this 49ers offense, because that is San Francisco's offense right there, is Christian McCaffrey and a mixture of others. I mean, we were talking about this with Brandon Ayuk and all the rest of it. So I have very, very good confidence. Christian McCaffrey will be fine. He'll be ready to go when it comes to the season opener. So there's no doubt in my mind he will be fine by the start of the season. All right, well, that was the news.
This is the Hot Press.
So, speaking of the New England Patriots, because I wanted to touch upon this subject here at least about a couple minutes before we wrap things up here up onto the show in about 15 minutes. So, right now in Patriots training camp, things seem to be looking pretty spicy with the quarterback situation. So, Drake May, the number 3 overall pick, has shown flashes that he is struggling in camp. And you know what? Rookie quarterbacks go through this all the time. Okay? They tend to get frantic. They tend to get a little bit defensive at times, but that's because they're trying to acclimate and adapt from college to the pros. Usually it does not happen overnight. That's why you have coaches in place. That's why also you have the preseason and you also have training camps. Now, luckily, we do get a chance to watch Drake May in preseason to see how this works. However, here's another news source. Joe Milton, their late round pick quarterback from Tennessee, from sources and scouts are saying that he is on fire in practice. So this is where I'm going to break it down from here. Okay, I like Drake May. I think he's a good kid. The comps on Drake May was Justin Herbert, because he's big, he's strong, he's got a heck of an arm, and he's one that's very, very poised in the pocket. But here was the knock up on it. And one of my good friends from one of my trustee sources, he sent film to me breaking down Drake May and was very openly honest about it. And I appreciated him for sending the film, because one of those things that it showed on the film was it was Drake May on a play where the left tackle missed his task, and Drake May was as stiff as a stone. The left tackle, okay, he missed his he did not execute, and the pass rusher came in and sacked Drake May. And he was as stiff as a stone, man. It was not good. It was not a good look. So my thing with Drake May is, and this is where you're starting to see the distinct of two of these quarterbacks from the ACC and the SEC. Because when was the last time, okay, the products in the ACC, there have only been very few that have come out and have been successful, okay? I'll give you at least a couple. Deshaun Watson, and here's the thing. Trevor Lawrence, this is an important season for him. He has to be better than what last year gave him. Now, he does have a playoff win, and I do think does turn around a bit of the offense from Jacksonville into an actual viable offense. But there was injuries that accumulated, but at the same time, they felt a lot like their mediocre selves again. They barely have at least a defense outside of Josh Allen and a couple of other players to name. They needed more, but they were not a shutdown type defense. Okay, so they needed to upgrade a bunch of those spots. But when Deshaun Watson came into the scene out of Houston, okay, the guy was great. And by the way, remember the year when they started 0-3 and then they went into this 9-win stretch? I mean, that was a great stretch. And Deshaun looked like a franchise quarterback. Unfortunately, he's been sidelined because of personal issues. And then at the same time, this whole thing with the Houston Texans. And again, I get weird vibes when it comes to Cal McNair, but this was back then. Now, you're looking at Deshaun Watson with the Browns, and hopefully it's a non-distracted season this year that he can actually perform and produce. And I have a very good feeling that he may. Because after what we saw with Kevin Stefanski, without multiple quarterbacks, he still made that Browns team an 11-win team. It is very, very crazy to think about that, right? That's why he was coach of the year. Now, I know a lot of people would think, well, what about DeMeco Ryans and what about a lot of the others? I would argue that I would have given it to DeMeco Ryans, but what Kevin Stefanski did to really up his resume was, I think it was spectacular. So this thing as well with the ACC, I mean, look at the North Carolina quarterbacks that have come out. Mitch Trubisky, Sam Howell, and now Drake May. Now, I'm not going to condemn Drake May because he's a rookie. We got to watch him develop, and we got to see what happens from here. But I do agree that New England was, in fact, a harsh place. But I was not surprised that New England was going to take somebody like that. But they need a left tackle. They need a better offensive line. It's not the same line core than when Bill Belichick was there. It's different now. So there's a lot of things that concern me about Drake May. But Mitch Trubisky, remember the time when the Chicago Bears ended up trading a lot of those picks with Mahomes, with Deshaun Watson, and I believe with one other quarterback that year too. They took a North Carolina quarterback that definitely looked like a high-end backup. So Mitch Trubisky in the NFL barely made its successes, even though, Matt Nagy, offensive coach, tried to make all of this work for Chicago, but Chicago was very big on defense. Now you've got a new weapon. You've got a new quarterback with Caleb Williams. You got new weapons. Like, he's got a lot of toys to play with. And so with Mitch Trubisky, even up in college, he had one great year, and then that was it. Sam Howell, one great year. That is it. But I do hold this about Sam Howell. He's in Seattle now. But in Washington, the thing I will defend Sam Howell on is because when I had him on fantasy football and on my roster, the guy was putting up points. There would be 1 week where he struggled, didn't look good, put up 15 points, and then the next week he was putting up 35. Okay, he was the passing yards leader before all of a sudden the Commanders went downhill. But is that really Sam Howell's fault? That the offensive line was crap? Like it was last in the league? Washington's offensive line was atrocious. So, and then let me give you a couple other ACC quarterbacks. Jameis Winston. Okay, when he came in, he was arguably one of the top prospects in college football. But the problem of it was he was young-minded, and at the same time, the guy was a picking machine. Okay, very talented of an arm, but he was a picking machine in Tampa, which is why he ends up getting backup roles. And then it came out on news sources that apparently he had to get LASIK surgery on his eyes because apparently there was some fogginess in his eyes. That's what really, interrupted everything. But still, high-end prospect, made too many mistakes, didn't exactly translate well in the pros. That's why he's a backup right now. But there have been many quarterbacks in the ACC, and the only one who is the outlier amongst all of them is Lamar Jackson in Louisville. Did you even watch a lot of Louisville games? I mean, I kind of did. His Heisman year, and then even the year before that, before he won the Heisman. Lamar Jackson was great with his feet, athletic, and kind of gave me a vibe that I was like, wow, this guy, we could see the next Michael Vick here. That was the whole thing. But then you even look at Teddy Bridgewater there. And I felt bad for Teddy because of all the injuries he suffered by the time he came in the league. Oh, by the way, remember Christian Ponder? You know how many times people threw out that name saying he was a great prospect? This guy's going to light at the league. Yeah, what happened in Minnesota? Yeah, the Vikings, they're kind of gratefully regretting that pick. And yeah, Christian Ponder, that Florida State quarterback, I mean, he was talented, but not talented enough to translate in the NFL. I can tell you that much right now. But, this whole thing is that ACC quarterbacks, it becomes very difficult because the ACC underachieves when it comes to NFL style play and competition. Why do you think a lot of SEC, Big 10, and Big 12 quarterbacks, they exceed expectation? Hell, Pac-12 quarterbacks end up exceeding expectation. That's why I feel like the one quarterback that could very much succeed, and it's not only Caleb Williams, but Bo Nix at Oregon, because what Dan Lanning is doing right now in Oregon and coming into the Big 10, like, they are very much fit for this quarterback play. Like, they are. And they're very NFL ready. That's why Bo Nix, with the amount of experience and the starts that he's had in college, and by the way, when he went to Oregon, he has only thrown 3 picks. 3. Since his tenure in Oregon. So Dan Lanning is doing a lot of things right here. That's why I think they're going to have an awful lot of great success there in the Big 10. So, but the SEC and Joe Milton, and by the way, somebody ended up putting a video up out there saying that, Joe Milton wasn't this, Joe Milton wasn't that. He was given the starting role in Michigan. You know what happened? He lost it to J.J. McCarthy. And then he was given the starting role in Tennessee, but he lost it. Did he really lose that starting role in Tennessee? Did he? Last time I checked, Tennessee had 3 really good prospected quarterbacks. Hendon Hooker, before he went down with the injury. I thought he was very impressive. Joe Milton, very talented quarterback. He had a whole season on his belt in Tennessee. And Tennessee's been cooking up on quarterbacks. Have you seen the new quarterback that they got right now this year? I think he's going to be a quarterback to watch here. Because there are so many diamonds in the rough this year with quarterbacks between him and the kid Jalen Daniels in Kansas. So there are many different gems you can find in the late round. But you are seeing the absolute distinction of ACC quarterbacks and SEC quarterbacks. Because the two of them, ACC does not have enough competition. And this is why when Florida State said it was a travesty that they didn't get into the college football playoffs. Give me a break. And then, by the way, you get roadhoused by an SEC school in Georgia, which that was a travesty they didn't get into the playoffs. Kirby Smart has been the smartest coach in this program now for the last few years, and has been competing with Nick Saban and with Brian Kelly at LSU. So I don't want to hear that. And this is why that I feel like with Florida State, if you really, really want to be taken seriously as a college football program, you get the hell out of the ACC because there's no competition that's there. I mean, look, this is the downfall, I believe, with Dabo Swinney and Clemson because Clemson looked like an absolute tire fire out there. It was not good. It was eye gouging to watch. He lost DJ Uiagalelei after Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence, after they ended up going pro. He had DJ Uiagalelei, screwed that thing up, and now he's at Florida State, and I do feel like he's going to have a very, very, very good year there. But this is a problem with, the ACC and with their quarterbacks. By the way, you had Riley Leonard, who I think is very special. I think he's interesting to watch, but he transferred to Notre Dame. Why? Why do you think? The ACC ain't got no competition there. It ain't the SEC. It's not the Big 10. It's not the Big 12. So there's barely Barely any of that competition there. So this whole thing with the ACC, this is why you are seeing it with both these quarterbacks. Why SEC, Big 10, Big 12, when they were around the Pac-12, this is why they've been so successful at quarterback. I can name you at least a couple quarterbacks that I know from those power conferences that are starting quarterbacks. Joe Burrow, SEC. Justin Herbert, Pac-12. Dak Prescott, SEC. Okay? Matt Stafford, SEC. And even Kyler Murray in the Big 12 before they ended up moving to the SEC at Oklahoma. So understand something. Quarterback play from those conferences compared to the ACC is completely different, and it is so competitive. That's why we watch those conferences more than the ACC. Sorry, Dabo. Sorry, Clemson. Sorry, Florida State. Sorry for other teams in the ACC, but there's not a whole lot of competition there, and that's why the ACC doesn't really get a whole lot of love. Maybe you go and find a gem somewhere in your recruiting process, but I'm looking at this right now with a Patriots situation. North Carolina quarterbacks from Drake May, which I'm not gonna condemn him. It's his rookie season. But Sam Howell and Mitch Trubisky and a couple other North Carolina quarterbacks that have come out into the pros have barely paved the way and have barely paved the success path in the NFL, because most of them become high-end backups. Okay, that's the truth. Jameis Winston, a backup. Mitch Trubisky, a backup. The only ones that are basically starting is Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson, okay? And then you got Sam Howell, a backup. But Sam Howell does have more upside. So I'm going to give that to him. That's why I said, if you give him a top 15 offensive line, and I think after what the Seattle Seahawks had signed when we did the news, this is where he's going to prove a lot of doubters wrong, myself included. Okay? I don't doubt so much of Sam Howell, but I think if you give him a better offensive line, he will produce better. He will not have to feel like he's running for his life up out there. So I think Sam Howell's got more of the upside. I can agree with that. But yeah, I think you're just seeing just the difference between those quarterback plays. And I would not be surprised if Joe Milton ends up starting as a quarterback for the New England Patriots. I think because SEC competition, their expectation, and then not to mention their build for every single one of their NFL draftee prospects, it's great. So, again, a lot of people too, they want to bring up, well, what about Alabama quarterbacks? Well, it's unfortunate for A.J. McCarron because he had multiple injuries before now he's the starting quarterback for the UFL. And Greg McElroy, okay, he didn't end up panning out in the pros. You got Bryce Young, but I'm not going to condemn him after a terrible rookie season. I'm not going to do that to him because he didn't even have enough support. So what do you expect a rookie quarterback to do? And then at the same time, like Tua, he was benched multiple times the first year in his rookie year with Brian Flores. Flores did not even want him there. And now you got Mike McDaniel, and now he's arguably one of the most offensive players on this roster. Okay, and you give him toys to play with. You give him speed. Give him offensive players. Now McDaniel has unlocked Tua. Okay? And then, by the way, Jalen Hurts is an outlier because he went from both SEC and the Big 12 and still develops into a very big dual threat quarterback. Knows how to use his feet, throws the ball very accurately. I just think that the coordinators You saw the difference between Shane Steichen's offense and Brian Johnson's, and now you've got Kellen Moore. So, again, these distinctions of quarterbacks from different conferences, you could tell the difference. And unfortunately, sorry to burst your bubble, ACC, but you haven't proven to me to be sitting in the big boy table with the SEC, the Big 10, and the Big 12. Sorry to burst your bubble. By the way, the Pac-12 is dead, but yet we still have quarterbacks who have come from that conference that are still producing. So I'm sorry. We could take Lamar Jackson. We could take Deshaun. We could somewhat take Trevor Lawrence, but that's it. That's it. Nobody else to sit in on the big boy table. Sorry, but that's the reality and that's the truth. So, yeah. I figured I had to get that up out there because I'm not surprised when it came to Joe Milton, because Joe Milton was actually one of my top draftees for this upcoming season. So I'm excited to watch him play. And again, I think he's going to turn a lot of people's heads because SEC quarterbacks, I trust their build. I trust exactly their experiences. I trust the way that they get geared up for the NFL. Like, they're very smart. And Tennessee has been cooking with quarterbacks. So, yeah, I'm excited for it. But again, you can see that distinction. So do not be surprised if that is the case. All right, folks, that's going to do it here for me on the show. Appreciate you all for being here on a Tuesday night. Remember to like, follow, subscribe, and hit the bell button to keep you up to date on future and past episodes of the show. We are live on Roku, iHeartRadio, and all social media platforms. You can find me with the name right here on the title screen. Just look it up. I'm there on all social media platforms for you to find me. I'm excited for college football and for the NFL season. And so for this show, I am excited to be bringing back all of our best betting lines. I'll have something special for college football this year. And tune in because I will be introducing that here very, very soon. And also NFL's prime predictions. I cannot wait for that. But that is where our partners at BetUS come in the clutch. Put $50 down in your deposit or more. 125% bonuses with up to $1,200 in earnings when you get into the daily contest. Check it out for yourself. BetUS.com, BetUS where the game begins. And also on SeatGeek, because this NFL season, don't miss out on the most affordable prices for the best seats in the house when you go and rep your favorite team in your house when you use SeatGeek. But before checkout, use promo code SNAKESPORT for $20 off of your first purchase of your first ticket. But check it out for yourself at SeatGeek.com, why they're the most trustworthy ticketing app for your next event. That's SeatGeek.com. Download it on your mobile device through Google Play and the App Store. Jake the Snake Silva signing off. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you tomorrow on the Snake Sports Talk Show. See you later, guys.